Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little penguin, and you'll need about 116 rubber bands, give or take. You'll also need something to stuff him with. I used 2 cotton balls, and you can use old rubber bands if you want. You can make him on a loom in any configuration, even the monster tail. We're going to be using 6 to 8 pegs. So let's get started. First, we'll make his feet, arms, and the beak and eyes. I'm making his eyes blue, so I'm taking 2 single bands and looping each 4 times on my hook individually. It's my second one, looping it 4 times on my hook, like that. Now I'm taking 2 single white bands and I'm pulling those loops onto my 2 single white bands. And we'll put it aside to add to our face later. Repeat for the other eye. For the feet, we're using 4 rubber bands each, and for the beak we'll use 3. So we'll make the beak first, taking a single band, and I'm looping it 4 times on my hook, taking 2 single bands, stretch it out, double it, and getting it on my hook, and pull the 4 loops right onto the 2 single we doubled, and getting the other side right onto a hook. And we can leave it right there, just scooch it up. Let's do the feet, taking a single band, and we'll loop it 3 times on a hook. 1 more time, single, and loop it 3 times. Now take 2 single bands, and we'll pull those 2 bands that's looped 3 times onto the 2 single rubber bands, and we'll get it onto a single black band. So there's one of my foot. Repeat for the second one. Same thing, take a single, loop it 3 times on my hook. Another one, loop it 3 times on my hook. Taking 2 single rubber bands, and this is just a Rainbow Loom orange, and pulling those loops onto the 2 single band, and then getting it onto a single black band. Put it aside for later. Let's do the flippers, taking a single band, and will be black, and looping it 3 times on my hook, taking 2 single bands and pulling the 3 loops onto the 2 bands, and getting the other side onto our hook. Now taking 3 single bands and pulling, getting the loops onto our hook like that, and then we'll put it right onto a single black band. Add to our body later and put it aside. That's one of his flipper. Let's make the other. Same thing, taking a single band, looping it 3 times, taking 2 single bands, getting the loops onto the 2, get both sides onto our hook, taking 3 single rubber bands and pulling those loops onto the 3 single bands, and getting it onto our hook. That's our second flipper, and then putting it all onto a single black band. Let's put it aside for later. And now let's make our body and everything. With your loom in any configuration, we are using 6 pegs to start with, and you can also do this on the monster loom, taking 2 single black bands, and I'm coming across, crossing in the center to the other side. Once again, taking 2 single bands, putting it on a peg, twist it, and pulling it across to the other side. This center peg doesn't serve a purpose, it's just there in the way, but just get your bands around it. The last 2 black bands, loop it on the peg and crossing it in the center to the other side. So now you have 6 bands covering 6 pegs, and it should look like that. The next set, we're using 6 single black bands, and you're just going to cover all 6 pegs, creating a hexagon. Just go around your loom, covering all 6 pegs. And that's what it should look like. Go under, grab the bottom 2 bands, hold your rubber bands down, loop up and over to the center, and continue around your loom. And that's what it should look like. Push it down. And now we are going to change it up a little bit. I switched my loom so you can see better. And right up here will be the front of his face. And this will be the back towards the bottom of the loom, and the arrow's facing this way. And now we are going to do 4 blacks and 2 whites. So we're taking the 2 white bands and we're covering the first left peg to the center first, and then the center first to the right first peg, and the rest we'll cover with 4 single black bands, creating our hexagon. Go under, grab the bottom 2 bands, loop up and over very carefully to the center for all 6 pegs. Each time you want to push it down to make room. That was row number 3. For row number 4, we're taking 4 white bands, so covering the front of his face and down the side a little bit, making his face a little whiter. So I took 4 white bands covering these pegs and finishing off our hexagon with 2 black bands. Now we're going to go under, grabbing the bottom 2 bands once again, loop up and over to the center for all 6 pegs. Push it down. That's row number 4. In row number 5, we are going to add the eyes. So for our eyes, get it from where you have it, stretch it out. We're looping it from the first center peg to the right peg. You can do the left one first if you want. So that's one of my eye. Let's add the second eye on the left side for me. On the left first peg to the center first peg. That's what it should look like. And once again, I'm doing 4 whites, including the ones with the eyes, and then 2 blacks for the back of his head. My eyes are on, and we're going to go under, grab the bottom 2 bands, loop up and over to the center. So this is row number 5, and we're going to do a total of 13 rows for our penguin. Push it down, and you should always only have 2 bands per peg left after you loop everything up and over to the center. That's what it should look like right now, and at this point, after we looped up all the bands for row number 5, we're going to add his beak. So for the center first peg, we're pulling the 2 bands off of it and pulling our beak off of our hook and getting it right onto those 2 loops that we took off of the first center peg. And push it down. So that's what your penguin should look like. The beak is on the 2 bands here on the first peg. Now for row number 6, we're taking 2 white bands covering the front of his face and the 4 black bands covering around to finish our hexagon. Once again, go under, grab the bottom 2 bands, loop up and over for all 6 pegs. Push it down. His head's almost done. That is row number 6. And row number 7 will repeat the same bands, 2 whites in the front and 4 blacks all around, finishing our hexagon. And loop up and over like we did. Push it down as you go. And that's row number 7. And our head is done. And now we're going to do the body. And for the body, we are going to expand now to 8 pegs. So we're going to pull these 2 bands off of the center 3rd peg and pull it all the way to the center 4th peg and loop it right onto there. We can get that around the 3rd peg, that's okay. So we can push it down. Doesn't matter which way it goes, it's just in the way. And now we're going to get a band off of the 2nd peg, either on the right or the left. And we want to pull the band that's coming from here. So I'm going to pull this one, and I see that the other side is connected to here, so I'm going to pull it to the 3rd peg on my right, and the one that's left is connected to this peg here, so we're good. And let's work on this one. Once again, we want to pull the band that's connected to the first left peg. So pull your rubber band off, and for sure that one is connected to the first left peg, and we'll pull that one to the 3rd left peg, and the one that's still left should be connected to the 4th center peg. So now what you should have is single band there, single, double here on the 4th center, and then single, single for these 2, and these should have 2 bands on each. And let's work on our body. We're going to do 2 white bands to continue down the neck and the front of his belly, and then the rest we'll cover with 6 black bands, covering now all 8 pegs. And for this row, if you want to add the arm, if you feel like my penguin's arm here is a little too low, you can add it on the first to the second peg for both sides. But I'm going to add it for row number 9, and this is row number 8. So I'm going to loop up the bottom 2 bands, and the second and third peg should have a single band. Just loop those single bands up and over. Make sure you hold down your top band so it doesn't come off. So go around all 8 pegs now, loop up and over to the center, and push it down. Row number 9, I'm doing the same thing, 2 blacks and 2 whites in the front. So I'm going to add my 2 whites right now. And I'm going to add the side flippers or wings. So I'm going to get it from where I had it. I'm going to attach it to the first and second peg on my loom for both sides. And push the wings out to the side like that. And finish covering the rest of the pegs with a single black band. And again, this is his back side. Covering all 8 pegs. Loop the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center for all 8 pegs. Push it down, and that's row number 9. For row number 10 and 11, I'm going to use 4 black bands and 4 white bands. So I'm going to loop 4 white bands around his front and to the side a little bit, and then 4 black bands to finish covering all the 8 pegs. And you're going to repeat this for row number 11 as well. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because this is repetitive. That was row number 11 for me. In row number 12, I'm using all black bands to cover all 8 pegs. And you're going to repeat the same process after you covered the 8 pegs. Loop the bottom 2 bands up and over, and then we'll add the feet on row number 13. Row number 13, we're going to add our feet. So I'm taking my feet and I'm attaching it like where I did the eyes from the first center to the first side peg for both sides. And this is our last row. And covering the rest with single black bands. And we're going to loop the bottom two bands up and over, like we've done for the rest of our project, and we're almost done. Push everything down. That was our last row, and we want to make sure that we only have 2 loops per peg left on each peg. And now we're just going to go around. Our penguin's very stuffed in here. We're going to go around getting a hook in each peg and grabbing the 2 loops off of the loom, and I'm going to go clockwise around. Very carefully, don't let it come off. Make sure the feet stays in the front. And you can pull our little penguin off of the loom. He looks kind of funny right now, and we'll have to, and flat, and we'll stuff him with cotton balls in this hole here. So we're taking our cotton ball and we're going to push it in the opening in the bottom all the way through, and we're pushing it right into his head very carefully. So his head is stuffed, and you can adjust it. Stuffed one for his bottom. My 2 bands came off. Make sure yours doesn't come off. If it does, very carefully put it back on your hook. Putting the last cotton ball inside his body, and make sure that your bands doesn't come off your hook. So my cotton ball's in his body, and the other one's in his head, and there he is. You can fix his beak later. And now let's tie him off or cinch off his bottom. Taking a single black band, getting the loop on your hook, and then sliding all those loops that you have on your hook right onto the single band. Getting both loops onto our hook and sliding the back over the front of our hook to tie our slip knot. And we're going to push the cotton ball in some more to hide it, if any sticking out, and then tuck in our slip knot band. And you can adjust his little body and pull on any strings that are sticking out if you want, and they should sit right up for you. So here are your cute little stuffed penguins. I hope you like them. Thanks for watching.